Hi everyone, and thanks for joining today's webinar, Building Your Tech Stack, Lessons Learned from 3 Recruitment Leaders. My name is Alex and I'm on the marketing team here at Bullhorn, and I wanted to cover a quick couple of housekeeping notes before we begin. All attendees will be muted during today's presentation, but we strongly encourage you to ask questions in the question pane that's on the right-hand side of your screen. Get to as many questions as possible before the end of the session. Today's webinar will be recorded and you'll receive a copy of the recording within the next 24 hours. We should wrap up in about 45 minutes. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome today's moderator, our very own Nina Eigerman. Nina, take it away.
Thanks, Alex, and welcome everyone to our webinar on building your tech stack. This is actually a reprise from a session that we did at Engage last year that was super popular. People really like to hear from recruitment leaders about what they have in their tech stack and how they've tricked out their bullhorn to work well with their business. So we are going to hear from 3 folks who are on the call today. Brian Cunningham from Allen Recruitment in Dublin, Ireland. He's got some really great lessons learned to share. Then Maggie Williams from Corporate Brokers here in the US, and Dan Butler from Searchability in the UK. And I'm going to let them introduce themselves, although I probably will have a few comments to make as we go through, having spent some time with them and really getting a chance to learn about both their backgrounds and their tech stacks. So what we're going to talk about today from the perspectives of these 3 different staffing firms is how their tech stack has really been able to differentiate their business, how they went about their buying process, and then how they ensured adoption. So we'll get a kind of full life cycle experience of the tech stack from the 3 leaders. So we're going to start by asking what's in the tech stack, and we'll start with Brian.
Hi, Nina. Thank you so much. My name is Brian Cunningham from Allen Recruitment, based in Dublin. We've been Bullhorn customers for, I think, 8 or 9 years now. And we started out with just Bullhorn. And over the period of time, we've grown our tech stack. So we'll get into that a little bit more in a second. I came from an IT background, about 12 years experience working in banks and creameries and different companies implementing corporate systems. My wife, Louise Allen, started Allen Recruitment. I was at a bit of a loose end, thought I'd play golf for a while, and ended up coming into Allen Recruitment in the very early days to build a network, a website. I answered a phone, I started talking to candidates. I really loved it, enjoyed it, and I've been here ever since. So an interesting way to get into recruitment. I've never worked in another recruitment agency. I've never seen how another recruitment agency works. So we both came from change backgrounds. So we were always looking to drive efficiency, to improve the candidate experience, and really try to make the business as best as it could be. I suppose then just looking at our tech stack, there's quite a bit there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow a very quick life cycle of a job. So one of our clients, we deal with a lot of big corporate clients. They release a job on their system, whether it's Wand or Fieldglass or these type of systems. Fire, which was VMS previously, picks it up, loads it into Bullhorn for us. We review the job. We get into a situation where we're looking to advertise. Then we use Broadbean, which is a multi-job poster. We post on Monster and LinkedIn and lots of different job boards in different countries, depending on what we're doing. If a candidate applies, they hit the apply button, it comes in via an email, and then we use Daxter Capture. So it interrogates the email and loads the CV or the resume into our Bullhorn database for us. We've done a lot of work with these guys, and we're probably 90–95% the data is correct when it hits our database. So a lot of different work has gone in to make that as efficient as it can be. At that point in time, we probably decide we need to do a search. So we use SourceBreaker to build the Boolean search. Our methodology is about very detailed, complete searching. And then we take that Boolean from SourceBreaker and we use Daxter search in order to search all the different sources we have. Again, Monster, Bullhorn, LinkedIn, different places that we have access to. The reason we use Dijkstra is you can do one search, and it's the same criteria searched across all of those places, and it brings it all back into one, and it says this candidate's number one, this is number two. What we found previously was our recruiters had preferences for Monster or LinkedIn or wherever they searched, and they'd forget to search Bullhorn, and the guy could be in our database, the candidate could be there. So this was a great way of building a good habit of searching everywhere and finding the best candidate, and it would tell you which place they were in. So we also use Sourcebreaker to do searching because it's slightly different methodology, so it can give us some different results. At that point in time, we very much, recruitment is a team sport in our company. So what we try to do is we build a shortlist. The recruiter working on the role will review the shortlist that the sourcer has developed using the searching and Dijkstra search. And what they do is they decide, now I want to contact these people. So we used to pick up the phone and leave lots of voicemails. And then what would end up happening is while the candidates listen to the voicemail and they're calling the recruiter back, guess what? The recruiter's on the next call, leaving the next voicemail for the next candidate on that list. So we decided to turn it on its head, and using Herefish, which is now part of Bullhorn, we had talked to Jason and the guys
They're
there.
honorary marketplace members for life.
For life. That's because you bought them. Right? So we started working with them when it was just candidate marketing. And then we started getting involved in the whole automation side of things with them. So we look at it as, what's the things that recruiters don't like doing? The drudgery, the hardship stuff. So do you know what? You'd ring someone, you forget to send them an email afterwards, you forget to send them a text. So we put all of that first. So the shortlist, we use Herefish to automatically contact these people. So they get texts using Text Us, email, which is Outlook, and basically we then have Calendly in those. And we came across Calendly because the guys in Herefish used to do it to schedule the calls. So we said, why don't we use it to schedule the calls with the recruiters? So now my recruiters come in the morning and their diary's full of candidates who want to talk to them, who are available at the time that they've said and who know about the job they're talking about. So from that perspective, it's completely turned things around for us from being outbound cold calling to suddenly it's a warm, fuzzy lead that you're talking to someone, which is a much nicer environment for recruiters, but also for candidates. They can sneak away from their desk, or now that they're all working from home, it's much easier, and they can go for that coffee and have that call. We found our screening calls have just gone up fivefold in the length of time that they're taking because people have the time to give to us. And that was pre-COVID as well. But the whole thing for us is that we've changed the whole environment in our office. Our recruiters are not judged by the number of calls they make or number of messages they leave. It's about the number of CVs they send out. So we've become very much outcome-based rather than KPI-based. Again, Cloud Call is one of our partners we use for a long time. And what they do is allow us to do all the phone stuff. And again, they're developing some really cool new tech around, things like voice to text. Could you imagine when you're searching to be able to search the text of the conversation you had with that candidate? I think that's going to be huge and really, really powerful when you can't remember that candidate said, I want to work in New York or here. But if you search for New York and it's in the text, you'll pull that candidate out. At that point, it's pretty traditional. Once we've got the person engaged, we're trying to establish, are they interested in this job? And then the second is, can they do the job? We go to send a CV. So we use Kylo to format the CV and produce the cover page and all of that information. It's all pulled out of Bullhorn into the cover page. We submit the CV, interview requests, back and forth, all the normal stuff, offers. We get to a lovely contract situation. So again, using Kylo, we create the contract. So again, we have a saying that if it's not in Bullhorn, it didn't happen. So everything goes into Bullhorn and everything gets pulled from Bullhorn. So when we're producing the contract, no one is typing in or free texting or free typing stuff into the contract. If it's not in the Bullhorn field, it doesn't go in. So again, Kylo do that for us. At this point in time, then I think we have RSM down the bottom. It's not quite in order. I'm jumping around a little bit. So RSM are our timesheet people. So we have people on site in large multinationals. So sometimes they have their own timesheet system. Sometimes we need to supply the timesheet system. But we pull the data and it all ends up in InTime, which feeds into our accountancy system, which is QuickBooks. And, it's a nice environment for the people. They can access their handbooks for each different site. They can access their contract documentation, all the onboarding stuff you need to do for them. We keep that all in RSM InTime. Insight Squared is our data analytics partner. And basically, again, using that thing, if it didn't happen, if it's not in Bullhorn, it didn't happen, we use it to measure. Now, we always think of numbers in two ways. The number tells you the volume of what was done. The ratio tells you the quality of what was done. So you can send 20 CVs, but if you don't get 10 interviews, they weren't very good CVs. So we really look at the ratios and the numbers from that point of view. Did I miss anything, Nina?
Yeah. No, and I love the way you call it stress-free recruiting by leveraging the technology. I thought that was a really nice way of making it really human, that the technology is enabling people to have a more pleasant experience of being a recruiter, less cold calls and more actually connecting with candidates and getting candidates the jobs that they're looking for. So
we implemented a new automation this week, and it was around the fact that candidates, there's lots of people looking for jobs at the moment and they want feedback, and we don't have time to go back to them all. Now we go into the shortlist and say not suitable, this, we give them a different status, and Herefish sends them a lovely email. Just today I had a candidate come back and was saying, thank you so much for coming back to me, you know, you're such nice people. We use a person called Kevin. Right? I hope no candidates are on this call. We use a person called Kevin, right? He doesn't exist, okay? He sends those emails, but they think he's fabulous because someone has got back to them. That's the hardship. That's the hard part of recruitment, having the time to do all that stuff. Use automations. That will take it away.
Getting rid of the black hole is so important. But let's take a moment now and hear from Maggie a little bit about about how Corporate Brokers does their tech stack and where she came into it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Nina. And so I'm Maggie Williams. I'm the Director of Performance here with Corporate Brokers. So a little bit about us. We are a temporary IT and customer service staffing and solutions firm headquartered in Annapolis, Maryland. We have locations up and down the East Coast. And for me, I actually started my career at one of the largest staffing firms doing credit analysis, and found that I wanted to make my way into leadership and get more involved within the business. And so I ended up moving over to our IT solutions division and oversaw some of the accounting functions while I was there. And through all of that, I found that I love the industry and I love what we can do to support people in finding their next roles. And so I wanted to make a larger impact. And so I joined Corporate Brokers about 2.5 years ago. And when I did, I really have focused on our back office. So I oversaw our HR team, our marketing team, professional development team, risk and compliance, IT, you name it in the back office, and I've pretty much overseen it. And so from there, in the last year, I joined as a volunteer for the American Staffing Association on our Women in Leadership Council, as well as on the Capital Area Network Council, and have also been on the Corporate Brokers executive team, where I can really start to bridge that connection between the back office and our sales team to really escalate our growth. So I moved into this director of performance role where I'm really focused in on optimizing our sales division's workflow by really evaluating our technology usage and overseeing the training and development, and along with our marketing. And so I work really closely with our sales team and their operating rhythms so that they can really, like Brian was saying, spend the majority of their time with our candidates, with our employees, with our customers, rather than trying to figure out how to put the data in the system and what does that look like. It was too distracting for them. And so I've been working hand in hand with the leadership team and the executive team for each of the divisions to really understand what their short-term and long-term goals are, so we can ensure that there's value in the investments from both a top line and a bottom line perspective, and that they have what they need to be successful. And so moving over to our tech stack, I'll share a little bit about when I first joined Corporate Brokers. We truly were barely utilizing Bullhorn. We didn't really know how to use it. So we said, we're going to go out on a search for a new ATS system, because we thought Bullhorn was the problem rather than us and our organizational processes. So we spent 3 to 6 months on a search and finally decided that Bullhorn really did have everything that we need, but we just didn't know how to use the platform well. So we decided to go all in with Bullhorn, and since then have added tremendously to our tech stack and have really adopted that mindset Brian was saying of if it didn't happen in Bullhorn, it didn't exist. So from our tech stack perspective, we have our partners that we look for who really streamline the day-to-day of our employees and enhance their experience. So that's not only just our sales team experience, but also our candidate experience. That experience that they have with us is the first time that they really engage with our company, and we want to make sure that it's the best interaction that they can have with us. So we start with our job boards, and we have them easily flow and integrate directly into Bullhorn, so that posting a job is done directly out of Bullhorn, and we receive the applicants right back into Bullhorn. That allows us to have that communication as well as build up our applicants within the system. We also then, from a communication standpoint, use Vonage and Text Us. Vonage allows us to have a click to dial. So when we're in the system, the team can just click the number, and it goes right out, and we can start calling candidates very quickly, as well as mass text if we need to, whether it's from our tear sheets or whether it's because we need to get communication out from one of our customers to all of our employees. It allows for very easy communication, as well as on the back end documents all of our call volumes and texting volumes to see what our employees are doing, as well as documents that text chain right in the Bullhorn platform for us. So if an employee is not in the office, but we need to know what communication looks like, we can see it right there in the platform. From an onboarding perspective, we have Employee Stream and Assurant who actually work hand in hand together for us. So it's really become a one-stop shop for us as an organization. The HR team will go in once we've had a placement made, and they go right into the Bullhorn system and send out all the onboarding documentation directly in Bullhorn. Then the employee on their side gets one email link that they can use to fill out their I-9s, any of their documents, as well as their background screening. And then our HR team, once that's all completed, goes right back into Bullhorn and is able to collect those documents, review them for accuracy, and then save them down as they need. We utilize Herefish to automate those administrative tasks or set reminders for our sales team. Don't forget to reach out to this person. It's been a few days since you've talked to that person, as well as communicate milestones directly to our employees. So we confirm interviews through there. We have a first day text that goes out that says, how was your first day? How was your first week? We ask for referrals as well as an NPS. How would they refer us to another person? So that is all done automatically without our sales team having to worry about all those small but really needed communications out to our employees. ClearEdge has been instrumental this year with us. They've helped us refine our messaging and our communication, as well as our overall marketing strategy for all of our divisions. And we've been able to this year really focus with the modules from Bullhorn for both VMS Sync and Mass Placement. VMS Sync brings directly in all of our VMS recs with our customers. So our sales team's not going from one system to another to just copy and paste that information, and then allows us to submit through Bullhorn back into that VMS. So we don't have to leave the Bullhorn platform. Mass Placement also, particularly for our customer service division, allows us to put in multiple placements at one time with all the same information. So we're not having to go through for 20 placements and say, here's one, here's two, here's three, but rather we can do all 20 at the same point in time and make it a smooth transition for our sales team. And lastly, we're actually in the process of implementing Cube 19. So we're very excited for this tool. We needed a more robust reporting tool, and we found that Cube 19 really brought together all that information real time. And we're excited to be able to start evaluating our company performance and our KPI metrics and really give the visibility to our leadership team rather than having to try to figure it out through some Excel documents and where exactly do I go for all of this information.
So I think a couple of themes that have come out between you and Brian that I hear over and over again is if it's not in Bullhorn, it didn't happen. and that by integrating other technologies into your Bullhorn instance and leveraging the power of the platform, you're able to make sure that it's not just the Bullhorn centric activities that are in Bullhorn, but it's all of the texting and phone calls and background checks and everything else that you're doing that's making its way into the system so that the system becomes more valuable. And then the second thing that I heard that I think it's really critical is around knowing how to use the system. And I know that both you and Dan mentioned the customer success teams at Bullhorn being helpful and helping you to kind of revisit your implementation and make sure that you were leveraging the most powerful features of Bullhorn and getting the power out of the platform, and not necessarily just trying to automate the existing processes, but trying to change the processes to take advantage of the automation. And we'll talk a little bit more about that when we talk about implementation and implementing technologies, but I think that those are some really, really great themes. So thank you very much. I want to move on and talk to Dan about what searchability does and how he came into that business and where he's taking it.
Yeah, so Searchability are a UK-based tech digital recruiter. We've got just over 8 years now. I was brought in as employee number 1, hands-on recruiting software developers in the UK into permanent positions. I came from more of a traditional IT recruitment background where CV databases were essential, job adverts were essential, and we saw that we just weren't getting the results that we used to from those routes. We wanted to reduce the reliance on job boards, lean on social media where the candidates were spending their time, and we just couldn't do it in the confines of the business we were in before. So Searchability was born. I still recruit software developers now. We've grown from 2 people to around 50 people. Majority UK based still, but new divisions focusing on recruiting tech in the US and tech into mainland Europe as well. And that's really quite an exciting time for us over the next 12 months as they grow. If we go on to the technology stack that we've got, we were quite similar to what Maggie was saying, really. You know, we've used Bullhorn from day one. We went for it because everybody raved about it. They said it was the best product out there by miles. We got a year or 2 into it and we didn't get it. We didn't understand why everybody was raving about it. And we were quite honest with our customer support teams and they were brilliant. You know, they really spent a lot of time with us finding out what we wanted from the product and how best to do that. You know, we didn't understand the marketplace properly and the time that we had dedicated to explaining that was absolutely essential. So we're super reliant on it now. We like Bullhorn. We've gone in deep and we're seeing the benefits of doing that. So we use a whole host of different products, some of whom have been spoken about by Maggie and by Brian already. So I'll kind of rush through them. We use Broadbean for our multi-posting. We use SourceBreaker for our CV database searching because we do still see some results from that route. Kylo, we use their Awesome Docs product, predominantly for drawing up contracts. Cube19, though, which I know Maggie is in the process of implementing, we went through that process 2 or 3 years ago, and it's been excellent. As managers, we get to see what our teams are doing, and it's not just about gut feel, it's about real statistics, real things that are happening on the sales floor there and then. Our junior recruiters benefit from it because they can look at those colleagues of theirs who have been successful and see what are they doing. How many CVs are they sending out a month? How many new bits of business are they winning a month? And how are they using that to help them hit their target? It's been an excellent purchase, Cube19. It really, really has. Herefish is again something that we implemented prior to the takeover, the acquisition by Bullhorn. We're still early stages of using it though, I guess. We use it a lot for our email marketing. We found that the email functionality in Bullhorn didn't really provide everything we wanted, but Herefish does. You know, we get to send out good looking emails and build out our hot lists and target audiences really, really quickly. Automating processes is coming for us in the next 6 to 12 months. You know, we can see the benefits of doing that, and we're going to be working really closely with Bullhorn to do that. Two of the most recent acquisitions for us are Cloud Call and Odro, both of which we got on board in March of this year. Our aim has always been to keep our consultants on Bullhorn, as it's been touched on previously. And our previous telephony system didn't integrate with Bullhorn, and we saw that as a real gap in what we do. Having that ability to click to dial, having that ability to recognize the incoming calls and make sure that the candidates or clients who are calling into our office are getting to the relevant people as quickly as possible has been excellent. The call recording functionality has been really useful, and we're very, very pleased with the choice that we made to go with Cloud Call. And Odro, we use for our video interviewing predominantly. Odro has various different functionalities. It can be used to record videos for marketing. It can be used for candidates to do pre-screening videos, answering set questions from the clients. But where we've really seen it come into its own, particularly over the last few months as people have been working remotely, is providing a really easy access video interviewing tool where clients and candidates can meet online, don't need any software, they can do it from any device. We can meet them there, introduce them, lock the room, leave them to it. For those clients of ours who continue to recruit through this time, we've made loads of placements using Odro in that capacity.
I think it's really interesting to note that some of these technologies are even more important in a work from home environment. And you know, I was speaking with a larger US-based staffing firm that was saying that they were holding off on rolling out some of their marketplace acquisitions, given that their offices were closed. And I had to actually question that because some of these tools enable you to help keep your recruiters in the system, even as you are dispersed in so many different locations. So having calls going through a soft phone on your computer rather than having consultants using their cell phones can help you to have that data stay within the staffing firm rather than kind of walking out the door every night. So I wanted to talk a little bit about managing the actual buying process of looking at new technologies, evaluating those new technologies, and thinking about which ones you want to buy. I want to start with Maggie, talking about how you go about thinking about new technologies. And I know you've just brought on a few, kind of what that process was like.
Absolutely. So if there's one thing that I've learned and one takeaway I encourage for everyone is that you have to have a process. That process is going to vary a little bit per business model and culture of your company, but having a process is important. And so I'll share what Corporate Brokers process has become in hopes that it can maybe help someone. So first and foremost, the first step is there an issue? Where is there potentially a breakdown and an efficiency, or maybe just a need within the company? Maybe times have changed and you need to upgrade to a newer version of your software or platform, or maybe your team is spending too much time on a task that they shouldn't be, or that you don't want them to be anymore, or maybe there's a new compliance regulation that came out and you have to or required to go out and get a new platform. So once you've determined that where the issue is, then step 2 for us is determining the use of it. Is this a need or want? Do we absolutely need to have this, or is it just something that we want to have? And so some of the ways that we determine that is by asking ourselves, first, what are the features that we currently have, and what are the features that we require if we're going to make a change to the system? Second, and one of the most important ones for us at this point, does it integrate with Bullhorn? If it doesn't integrate with Bullhorn for us, we're probably not going to look very closely at it unless we absolutely have to. And then next is, what are our non-negotiables? Where do we want to make sure we have to have this, and it's our walking away point from a particular software if they don't have it? Is there a process impact to us as an organization? Does it replace multiple systems, and can we combine down into one system? Are we only upgrading a system, or are we adding to our current tech stack and adding something additional into our organization? What's our financial flexibility? How much budget do we have for this? Does it reduce time for us or maybe create workflow efficiency, add revenue for us as an organization, maybe reduce costs for us? And does it meet, if it is that compliance requirement, does it meet compliance requirements? Are we not meeting them now? And what does that look like? So there's a lot of questions we have to ask ourselves first. Then once we have the answers to those questions and really understand what we need, we then start doing research. And that way, then we're looking for companies that provide the solutions that we need. And we're able to use those questions and answers to really narrow down our search really quickly. If I know I'm in a conversation with a potential vendor and they don't meet my non-negotiables, then the conversation's over really quickly and I thank them for their time and we move on. Once we know where the vendors are that actually meet the requirements that we have, we're able to then get understanding of their functionality and really start to get into the demo process. And in the demo process, it can be easy to get distracted by the new features and functionality and how the system looks, but you always have to go back to those use questions that you had before and say, does it actually meet what I need? I can tell you I've gotten distracted and almost purchased something that didn't actually meet what we needed. So that part's really critical. Fourth, and very important, I can't stress this enough, get stakeholders involved. They need to have buy-in at the very beginning of the process. Show them a demo of what you're looking for. Show them exactly, once you've narrowed it down, exactly the 3 items that you've brought it down to, and get their candid feedback on how they're going to use their platform. I like to ask them, how does this impact your operating rhythm? How does this help you? How does it hurt you? What will you have to change in your day-to-day? Do you like the system? Do you like the way it looks? Would you actually use it? Or does it look cool and fun, but it's not really what you need? And you get them excited. They get excited and bought in, and then they're asking you for the new system rather than just telling them that they have to use it now moving forward. And lastly, evaluate business impact. Understand what is the process change that's going to occur, because it will occur. You are going to impact someone's day-to-day function, and you need to understand what that looks like. Someone needs to be responsible for the platform. You need to understand how you're going to evaluate ROI. You need to have your current process, how it works now and how it's going to change and work. How do your KPIs change? And how quickly do you expect that to happen? And what does implementation look like? Is it a 2-week process? Is it a 2-month process? And really starting to work with the vendor of how that looks. So once all of that's completed, all the stars align, you sign on the dotted line and you start to get your technology implemented.
That's super comprehensive. Thank you so much, Maggie. There's a blog post in there, I'm sure, and I think people are going to want to have more detail to that. I'm actually kind of curious to hear, Brian, how you find the new things. So we talked a lot about kind of thinking about what your needs are from Maggie's perspective, but is there other ways that you learn about stuff that you might not even known that you needed?
Absolutely, Nina. There's like a perfect example is formatting CVs is something that's become, it's taken us too long. It's something we should be able to do quicker. We've tried to train people in how to use Word and to be better at it. And someone was trying to sell me a product recently. Again, like Maggie, I asked the question, does it integrate with Bullhorn first? The answer was yes, but I didn't want it. And I said, don't waste my time unless you can do something for me. The guy said, but it does this. And I said, but could it do something different? Could I make it do this? Could I get that part of what you have? And he was like, yeah, he's just got a new product. And the guys in here official tell you this. They were doing candidate marketing. And the first thing I said to them, could we not use this for business development? But it doesn't connect with contacts in Bullhorn. Surely it can though, can't it? Well, hang on. 2 weeks later, it's connected with contacts. I'm now sending emails out doing business development. So we tend to see where the need is or the gap is, again, like Maggie. We may not be as organized, and I'll probably get given out to that I should be as organized as Maggie, but we're not, right? And we do a little bit more by the seat of our pants, but we look for the gap or look for the thing that's taken us too long or the thing that recruiters don't want to do because it's a pain. And we try to come up with a solution. We don't get it right all the time. We started our journey 4 years ago as a summer of change. And here we are 4 years later, and we're probably 90-95% down the road. We thought we'd have it over in 3 months. But the reality is that you know, you can buy something that's shiny and new, and I've done that. I could probably, there's a blog post and all the mistakes I've made, you know, don't do those. And I think it is important though, you know, as Maggie said, really know where you want to get to, you know what the end result is. We're now, we've a lot of the groundwork or the foundations or systems in place, and now it's more agile. It's something we can implement in a week, something we can implement in 2 weeks. It's little things. Somebody said to us, a new recruiter who just joined a few months ago, said, it'd be great if I had an updated CV from the person before I get to talk to them, because they normally get it after the call. So now we send out an email from Hairfish says, if you have an updated CV, click here. Daxter built a new spool for us. They log onto our website, they upload the CV. It's in Bullhorn, it's ready to go before the call. We only implemented it a week ago, and I think we're getting between 25 and 30 updated CVs a day now from people. So it saves,
That's a great
that
idea.
we would have been waiting for 2 days afterwards to get that.
You know, you had mentioned something about a 1% improvement a month that you're working on, and I think that that is really
Well, it started from trying to do these big implementations, and it used to be, how do you eat an elephant? And it was one bite at a time. So we've changed it now, and we have a programmer running across our account management, our recruitment, our accounts, everything, all parts of the business. Our aim is to be 1% better per month. So I was telling our CFO about this yesterday, and I was going 12%, and he said, no, 15%. And I'm going, he's an accountant, so 1% of one, but exactly, right? I didn't get that. So what we were doing is really looking at what can we change now? What can we improve today that's going to make us 1% better? And we had a very simple one recently. We were not getting the call with the client for a day or two after the job had come in, but we were advertising the job as soon as it came in, and then we're having to talk to candidates and we don't have all the information. So now we've just said, let's not advertise until we have all the information. So it's one call. So we'd screen them, get them excited, and then realize they wanted 100K and it's a 50K job. We've just wasted someone's time. So again, little things like that come out. So it's all just little bits, but it's our recruiters, our account managers, accounts people, onboarding. They're bringing the ideas to it, and we're looking at how can we implement as quick as possible.
well. So let's talk about implementation and talk about how that then translates to actual specific results. And Dan, I would love for you to talk a little bit about some of the challenges. I know that you had mentioned when we spoke earlier, sort of the older school methods that some people have, and how do you decide when you let people continue to use the technology that they've always used, the way they've always used it, and when you push them to adopt new technology?
Yeah, that particular example is with SourceBreaker. When we implemented SourceBreaker, a lot of our consultants who were already established in their roles, they were used to Broadbean. They were used to searching through Broadbean, building their own Boolean search strings, and they were good at finding candidates that way. They just couldn't get their head around how SourceBreaker works, why they needed to change. You know, they were looking at the same information, they were accessing the same job boards, the same CV databases, but just looking at it through a different window, and they couldn't see the benefit in that. And we lent on SourceBreaker. We took as much training as they would offer. They were very patient with those consultants as well. And in the end, there were a small handful who we just let them carry on with Broadbean. It was easier. We were still paying for licenses on Broadbean because we use that for our multi-posting. And they were good at what they did, these consultants. We didn't need to change the wheel for them. We didn't need to reinvent the wheel. But what we did find with SourceBreaker is those who were more junior, those who weren't as used to building their Boolean strings, using SourceBreaker came a lot more naturally to them. It seemed more intuitive, it felt easier to use, and through that, they felt that they could find candidates more quickly. Partly as a result of that, we've started to do what the other guys have spoken about and get our consultants involved in the buying process earlier, and we've seen the adoption of new technology increase through doing that. You know, particularly more experienced people, we encourage them to come to us with new technology. We encourage them to come to us and say, look, I've got this problem. I've heard about this technology. Can we do it? And we'll go through very, very similar processes to what Maggie was saying earlier. You know, does it integrate with Bullhorn? let's have a look at the demo. But we'll keep those consultants involved right the way throughout, and they'll get involved in the demo. They'll have a say in whether we adopt that technology or not. And because they become advocates of the technology through doing that, they're fighting for this technology because they believe it'll solve one of their problems. They are perfect to lead the adoption throughout the rest of the business. You know, they're successful in their jobs. They think this technology is going to help them be even better. Why would the rest of the team not want to use it? Why would they not want to adopt it? And we found great success in doing that.
So one of the things that Maggie was talking about earlier was that she likes to get somebody who is successful at using new technology, but also somebody who's resistant. Maggie, do you want to talk a little bit of that in your implementation processes?
Absolutely. So to Dan's point, it's all about the adoption and the people that you get included. And so I like to find champions. And so for me, I go with someone who's maybe a little bit more technology savvy, who's going to catch on. They love new things. They love trying it, and they're eager to do it. And then I find someone who's going to be really critical, someone who's going to be extremely hesitant to the change. Maybe they're not as technology savvy, someone who I know in the back of my mind, I'm like, this person, they're not going to want to do this. And I get them at the very beginning. And as soon as I get them both onboarded and they're bought into it and they can see the benefits, then together they work to get all those individuals who are in the middle, the ones who kind of want to try the new technology, but at the same point in time, maybe a little bit hesitant to change. And when they particularly see the person who's going to be critical, really raving about the new system, then they all start to get along really quickly. So, but then they know to go to the more technology savvy person to maybe get a little bit more understanding of how the system works and get really good feedback. So together, they kind of bridge together the rest of the organization to help really drive our change.
And if Mikey likes it, then how bad could it be, right? So you kind of have somebody who becomes almost like an advocate out of sort of a negative of, if you can get this person, then you can get anyone. Great.
Absolutely.
Well, we are running just up against time, but I did want to take a moment to talk a little bit about the extent of the marketplace. We have continued to add partners over the last 5-6 years, and now have partners. And you've talked about all of these categories. Sourcing, technology, whether that's job boards or multi-posters or bringing CVs into the system. We have a lot of consultants who are now part of the marketplace, and that includes a couple of people that you guys have mentioned, but Kylo and Newbury, but also some on the marketing side. And then technologies to do evaluation, background checks, video interviewing, all of that, to engage with talent and attract them, to track your communications data, both in terms of texting and voice over IP, but also portals and other mechanisms for being able to connect with candidates and customers, managing your payroll, and then doing analysis. So we have a full range of partners, and sometimes it can be kind of daunting to know where to start. So I'm going to recommend to the people who are listening today to do what these leaders have done. Reach out to your salesperson, reach out to your customer success team, try to see what other people have done. We have a number of resources online, some profiles of other companies of what's in their tech stack, and some profiles of specific individuals who have been leaders in their organizations at bringing technology in. So recommend checking out the marketplace page and reaching out to your Bullhorn resources to really tap into this. I feel like we could continue this conversation for like another 3 or 4 hours. It's so interesting to talk to people who are running very different businesses, but also have some strong similarities in terms of what your objectives are and how you leverage technology. So thank you all so much for joining us, and I'll hand it back over to Alex to wrap.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. And I think we're right up against time, but just want to give one quick question from the audience just so that we can get one in here. And I think someone was just hoping to learn more about how you partner with some of these vendors. We talked a lot about choosing them and implementing them, but once you're partnered together, how do you go about doing that?
I can take that question. And so for me, it's very important to have constant communication with the vendors. So I like to set consistent meetings, and depending on the vendor will depend on how consistent. Some of my vendors, I meet with them once a month. Some of them I meet with them quarterly. Some of them I meet with them once every 6 months. So it really depends on how it's integrated in your company. But it's really important in those conversations when we have our touch points is to go over what's working really well in the system, what we like about it, where we're struggling. So they know their platforms. They know what is best practices and what other companies are doing. And so they take time to educate me on what we can be doing better or differently. Additionally, it's my opportunity to tell them, to what Brian was saying earlier, this is what I want to see. My business is changing a little bit. Can you guys support me in this area? We're always first to go to our vendors first and ask them if they can support us before we just start looking for a new technology. And so we have seen from some of our vendors that they do make changes based on some feedback that we've given them. And so we really take that partnership approach. We like to have strong partnership and relationships with them. And we find that it's been a very mutual respect and business relationship after the fact. And we both are beneficials from it rather than, I'm just here to see you today and I'll see you again in a year for renewal.
I think it's great advice. And I think we've heard that across the board as well, that staying in close contact and having it really be a two-way conversation about how the technology can best support the business is really key. Awesome.
Awesome, thank you. And we do have a couple other questions, but I'm cognizant that we're up against time here. So we're going to wrap it up. But if we did not address your question on the call today, we will reach out directly to you via email. So stay tuned for that. And with that, I'd like to thank today's panelists, thank Nina for running this great panel, and thank everyone for joining us today. And have a great rest of your day.
Awesome. Thank you.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.